For the vineyards in this region, we have what's called vine mealybug, and that has become pest number one. I would recommend Sutera to other growers, and I would say that Sutera has become the backbone of a program in the fight against the vine mealybug.
Hello, I'm Matthew Malcolm with American Vineyard Magazine, reporting to you from the annual Grape Nut and Tree Fruit Expo. I'm here with one of our speakers, and that our Fresno County growers are very familiar with, is George Zhuang, a viticulture farm advisor for the county with the UC Cooperative Extension. It's been another tough year, and some of the growers this year had some difficulty, not only with the drought, but the heat. You know, we can expect that in Fresno County, but not always in the times that we anticipate. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, correct. So Matt, this year has been quite extreme. So the early spring was we saw actually two cold events, and some people experienced the frost damage and a lot of excessive shatter, poor fruit set, and a lot of sharp berries on the clusters. So that was a spring, but then after we move into the summertime, actually, there was some extreme heat waves coming to the season. Particularly at Labor Day, we had close to 120 Fahrenheit on that weekend. So a lot of people, see some significant damage in terms of the sunburn or berry shrivel, and ultimately that caused the yield drop on some cases.
We've seen the damage, and the big question is, what can we do, right, to better prepare for this in the future? Because it's going to come. It just does. And sometimes, not, like I said, not when we expect it. But what would you suggest?
Yeah, so, for a lot of growers, if they're thinking about planting new vineyards, I think the first two choices to think about for this new planting is to choose a right row orientation. So, if some variety has extremely sensitive to the heat wave or to the sunburn, you might want to choose the row orientation from east to west, right? But if there's some variety is pretty resistant to sunburn, maybe you can go to a north to south row orientation. So based on varieties, choose your row orientation based on the varieties. And second thing, I think most of growers are going to go for mechanic pruning for most of those new plantings. So we decide to go for a mechanic pruning system. You want to have your cordon a little bit higher. So actually, from my data last 2 years, we'll notice that if you raise your cordon higher, your cluster will be cooler during the heat waves and have a better sugar and a color at harvest. So if you decide to go mechanic pruning, like a single high wire, raise your cordon height a little bit higher. That's going to be beneficial during the heat waves.
Now, for the growers that are set on the current vines that they have in the ground and not planting a new vineyard necessarily, what would your recommendations be to them? Maybe some to decrease the stress of the vineyard, in times of heat waves.
Yeah, so that's right, Matt. Now, if you have a pre-existing vineyards and you cannot change your orientation or put the cordon higher, what can you do? A couple of things. Number one and most important things is to manage water, right? So I think during the drought, during the water crisis, you really have to have a better idea to manage your water. Either use soil moisture or use evapotranspiration or use the plant water status sensors, different technology on the market. That's going to be a whole nother stories. If you want to get more details, come to the Grape Symposium meeting at Easton. But water is going to be the number one thing to manage. Second, if you have water, you have irrigation on, but you still worry about the heat wave and still worry about the sunburn, sunblock spray can be helpful. Typically you spray the sunblock before the heat wave, and we notice there's some benefit in terms of a cooler canopy and a more efficient in terms of leaf photosynthesis during the season. So that's going to help you to somehow manage the heat waves better during the season.
Great. And you mentioned your symposium. When is that going to be taking place?
That's going to be the same place every year before COVID. So that's going to be the Portuguese Hall in Easton on January 11th. So we're going to have breakfast and barbecue lunch for the audience.
Awesome. Well, thank you, George. We're looking forward to that. Read more about these things in American Vineyard Magazine. I'm Matthew Malcolm, CaliforniaAgNet.com.